You signed a piece of paper last spring. Maybe it was a membership contract at a semi-private club. Maybe it was a junior membership at the course you've been eyeing for years.
Welcome to the club. We're thrilled to have you.
You remember the moment,
Thank you. I'm really
proud,
looking forward
a
to
little
this.
nervous, ready to belong. The pro shook your hand. The clubhouse felt like it was yours. That piece of paper had page 4. 8-point font. Buried between the guest policy and the dress code. One line you glanced at and moved past. Annual minimum spend applies to all categories except Pro Shop credit. You didn't know that line was engineered. You didn't know it would cost you $380 last year alone. You didn't know the club designed that line to make you feel smart while siphoning money from your wallet into merchandise you never wanted. Here's what most golfers believe about minimum spend rules. They think it's standard. They think
it helps me
it's
budget.
fair. They think it actually helps them budget for the season. Drop a comment right now. Be honest, how many times have you told yourself the minimum spend is just a way to force you to enjoy the club more? You're not alone. The industry sells this as a benefit. It ensures members stay engaged with the amenities. It keeps the club vibrant. That's the official story. That's the story you were told when you signed. That feeling of being played, the one that flickered when you read that fine print, is only the beginning of the trail. If this kind of financial unraveling makes you want to keep the lights on in your own wallet, subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the leak, and in the comments, drop the word page 4 if you've ever signed something without checking the footer. Let's build a list of what we've all missed. But the data doesn't match the story. The National Golf Foundation tracked 12,000 private club members across 200 clubs in 2023. Here's what they found. 73% of members never hit their minimum spend using only cash at the restaurant or bar. That means nearly 3 out of 4 members walked into the pro shop at the end of the year with a forced balance. They bought logoed pullovers they didn't need. They bought boxed sets of balls they wouldn't play. They bought head covers for clubs they don't own. Because the minimum spend clause said they had to. Pause here and let that number land for a second. 73%. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. That's a design feature. Clubs set the minimum just above what you would naturally spend in food and beverage alone. They know your patterns. They know what the average member spends on drinks after a round, on Tuesday steak nights, on the occasional box of balls. They take that number, let's call it $2,100, and they set the minimum at $2,400, $300 above natural behavior. That $300 is pure forced revenue. And here's the detail that really stings. That $300 you spend on pro shop merchandise at the end of the year. The markup on those items averages 62% over wholesale. So you're not paying fair market. You're paying a premium that clubs calculate precisely because you have no choice. The same golf glove that costs $18 at a big box retailer costs $31 at your club's pro shop. You know it. You feel it when you're standing at the counter watching the total climb, handing over your card. But you don't say anything because the contract says you have to. That 62% markup is the quietest leak in the bag. Most of us would never pay that if we could choose. If you're tired of subsidizing inventory you never wanted, subscribe right now. We're only halfway through the system and the counter move gets sweeter. In the comments, write 62 if you just realized that logo on your chest cost you $15. Let's stack the evidence now. 3 specific data points that build the case. Point 1. The average unused credit balance across private clubs in the United States is $370 per member per year. That money doesn't roll over. That money doesn't go to charity. That money goes straight to the club's food and beverage line item. You paid for it. You never used it. The club counted it as revenue. Point 2. The markup on forced purchases averages 62%, but when you buy from the pro shop, because you're trying to hit your minimum, you're paying that full markup on items you don't actually want. A $40 polo is actually a $25 polo at any other store. That logo on the chest costs you $15 in pure margin. Point 3. The psychological anchoring of free locker space. Clubs regularly charge an annual locker maintenance fee of $240. They tell you it covers cleaning, upkeep, and security. But here's what they don't tell you. Locker usage rates average 38% across the year. Most members open their locker fewer than 10 times. Some never open it at all. The fee exists because clubs know you'll see $240 as minor compared to your annual dues of $4,700. It's called decoy pricing. The big number makes the small number invisible. And the small number adds up. Over a 10-year membership, that locker fee costs you $3,400 for a space you barely used. Now we get to the mechanism. This is the part nobody talks about. Clubs design their contracts with what's called a behavioral floor, a spending threshold set deliberately above your natural habits. They don't just guess, they study member data. They know that the average member spends $175 per month on food and beverage. They know that drops off in winter. They know that by November, you've probably spent $1,800 of your $2,400 minimum. So they set the minimum at $2,400, knowing you'll walk into the pro shop in December with a $600 hole you need to fill. But here's the real deception. That $2,400 minimum isn't a cap, it's a floor. You can't spend less, you can spend more. And when you're standing in the pro shop on December 20th with a $600 balance and you see a new driver with a $6,999 price tag, the math gets fuzzy. You tell yourself the club credit covers most of it. You tell yourself you're only paying $19.90 out of pocket. You ignore that you already paid the $600 through your dues and your minimum spend. The club just made a $699 sale on merchandise that cost them $260. You walked out with a driver you didn't need, and the club walked your wallet. We need to flip the frame now. I want you to see what you've been missing. The membership you thought protected your money is actually the most carefully engineered leak in your wallet. The word minimum sounds like a safety net. It sounds like they're watching out for you, but it's a trap. It's designed to keep you spending when your natural desire to spend has already been satisfied. It's designed to turn the end of your season into a panic purchase. If you've ever stood at the pro shop counter with $80 in store credit you didn't want, holding a logoed towel you'll never use, you know that dull feeling of being played. You know the quiet shame of handing over a credit card for something you would never have bought if you weren't cornered by a contract. That feeling is not your fault. That feeling was engineered. You were set up to feel pressured, to rationalize, to spend. Here's what the clubs don't want you to know. You have more power than you think. 3 rules that change everything. Before we get to those rules, make this moment count. If you want to walk into your club next December or next week without that hollow feeling, hit subscribe right now so the rules land in your feed immediately. Then drop a comment with the word floor. Let's see how many of us have been standing on a behavioral floor without knowing it. The next video will give you the exact contract language to look for and the script to use when you push back.